We're back. I think it's part 30, 34, 33, 34. I want to show you guys this cool necklace that I got made on Amazon. It's my mom's handwriting. Yeah, isn't that awesome? And then my birthday present, my husband got me this beautiful bracelet. It's aquamarine, which is my birthstone. Okay, let's just jump right into this. We're gonna dive right into this video. So it's the day after Cameragate. Cameragate 2016 happened, right? Go to my mom's house. We found the camera in the house. I was just so confused at this point in time because I really just didn't know why there was cameras being planted in my mom's house. And I think my mom was so embarrassed about this. Anyone would be. I had seen my neighbor Jeannie's husband outside one day and I told him what happened. I'm like, they put a camera in the house and this and that. And he's like, your mom said that they put it in there to watch the dogs. No, they put it in there to watch her safe. Her dogs are on the total opposite side of the house. My mom used to keep her dogs locked up in this room that was just on the opposite side of the house, The dogs weren't anywhere around. My mom was mortified. I felt so bad at this point in time having to tell my mom all of this, and I really just wanted to keep it away from her as much as I could. I just was like, Mom, why did they put a camera in the house? And my mom couldn't give me an answer. I hung that camera up in the room. I was so mad at my brother at this point in time. I couldn't wrap my mind around this. I was like, where is his head at? What is this dude thinking? I sincerely believe that this was not coming from my brother. I really think that this was her. This was all being cooked up in Satan's dungeon of a brain. She was the one behind all this because I just can't picture my brother doing any of this shit. I could picture him doing it, but being told to do it. I can't picture him thinking this shit up on his own. I hung the camera up in a bag. I knew that it was going to be a problem once my brother came and got this camera. It was almost like when you strap yourself into a roller coaster and you're waiting for it to go. Like, oh my God, what's going to happen? Am I going to die right now? I was just like sitting there waiting for the crash. Meantime, they didn't come up to the hospital for a few days. It was nice. I'm not even gonna lie. It was like the best 4 days of my life. It was so nice just not having to worry about them. We didn't even discuss them. That year, my mom was very into the election. That was the year that we had the presidential race. My mom was really into politics. She always has been. Me, not so much. At first, I told her, because I wasn't really crazy about any of the candidates that were running, I told her I wasn't going to vote. She was devastated that she wasn't going to be able to get out and vote. At first, I told her that I'll cast the vote, but I'll vote for your candidate. And she wanted to vote for Trump. She was like, you don't have to do that. And I'm like, Mom, I promise you. You have my word. One night, I went home, I did research, and I realized that I could get her an absentee ballot. So I told her that I was going to get an absentee ballot, right? My mom tells my brother and Satan, Leanna's going to go get me an absentee ballot so I can vote. And wouldn't you know, I come in the hospital room one day and I look on her table and I'm like, where'd this come from? She's like, Satan picked it up for me. She was gonna go get my absentee ballot and hand my absentee ballot in. And I was like, no, she's not. I'm gonna do that because that was something special that I wanted to do for you. This girl was so goddamn intrusive. It was really getting on my nerves. This was before the camera and everything. So after Cameragate, it was that Tuesday was election day. I brought the ballot in, so I think it was the 8th. I went and cast my vote. I brought the ballot in. And then I went up to the hospital. And my mom was so happy. That was like something that was very important to her. She finally felt really happy about something. So that was Tuesday the 8th. So those 3 days, Monday the 7th, Wednesday the 9th, were the most peaceful days of the whole entire hospital stay. It was just so nice. But I gotta tell you guys, every day I would go in there and I would kind of inconspicuously look in the closet to see if my brother got the camera yet. Because this is too weird that I haven't heard anything about this camera, right? I swear over my son, I was not bringing them up. I didn't even want to ask my mom if my brother was coming down to the hospital. I just assumed he wasn't because the camera was still sitting there. And I knew if he came up to the hospital, my mom would have told him, hey, Steven, check in the closet. Leanna left the camera for you. So anyway, all right. During those couple of days that my brother didn't come up to the hospital, I noticed that my mom was getting more and more depressed. She started just getting kind of detached and apathetic. That's the best way to explain it. I was trying to do things that I would normally do to make her laugh. And, even when my son would come in the room, she just wasn't interacting with him the same way that she used to. There was one day that I actually sat down with her and I talked to her. One of the psychologists from that palliative care team had suggested taking an antidepressant, but my mom refused it. Like I told you guys, my mom was like very weird about like depression and all that stuff. Again, because I think there's a stigma attached to it with some of the older generation that like it means you're crazy, you know? So she refused the depression medication. You know, over that week, I would try kind of talking to her about taking an antidepressant. Finally, the doctors came in and they were telling her about this nerve medication. I think it was Cymbalta, I'm pretty sure. And they were telling her about this nerve medication and that, you know, not only would it help the pain that she was having in her legs and everything from the, you know, mass that was compressing on her spine, but it would also help with the depression. Or I was like kind of just slowly trying to talk her into this. I can't explain this feeling of just like you just want to fix the person. You want to do everything you can. Seeing my mom sad, which I had watched over the last 10 years prior to this, from my dad dying and then my brother breaking up with his ex and then me and my brother getting into this fight and the cancer, like I had just watched her get more and more and more depressed over time, and it was just like I just wanted to see her smile. I just wanted a glimpse back of my mom, of the person that I used to know. It was so hard to see her like this. It just broke my heart. It really did. It just tore me up inside to see her so upset. There was this one night, I remember my mom's cousin. I'll actually have to tell you guys this. It's kind of funny. My mom has this like cousin. She's just one of those people that's like, hi, how are you? Cousin so-and-so. She's like all like touchy-feely when you talk to her, all up in your face, and everything's so wonderful. There's always like sunshine and rainbows springing off of her head, and she's just like one of those people. It's just so phony that you look at her and you're just like, there's got to be something wrong with that woman. Nobody's that nice. You ever meet anybody like that? I mentioned this in an earlier video. Her and her sister are not speaking to each other. My mom's always been close with both of them. They don't talk to each other anymore. Why? Over a will. The mom cut the one that lives here out of the will. And for whatever reason, my family, instead of thinking like, wow, what'd she do to her mom? Why would a mother do that? They're like, let's blame the sister that lives down in Florida because she didn't go against her mom's wishes and split her inheritance with the sister who got purposely cut out of the will. So nobody talks to the sister down in Florida. This cousin, we'll call her Lenore. She's very close with Aunt Betty. They're like two peas in a pod. Two fake artificial peas in a artificial pod. Since my mom still talks to her sister down in Florida, cousin Lenore is like, well, I'm going to cozy up with Satan. She was another person who was all up on Satan's shit, on her Facebook page, constantly commenting, oh, you look beautiful. God bless you. That's so wonderful. She's another one of those assholes. My mom was like done with her. This is another person who was made aware that what she was doing hurt my mom, and yet she still decided to continue on doing it. But her excuse was, I just wanted Satan to think that we came from a nice family. First of all, you're a cousin. You're not in the family, and it's not your job to make your cousin's son's wife think that we have a nice family. Are you like the family PR rep? Like, who are you? She's so irrelevant. My mom literally felt like this woman was like replacing her because at my Nana's 90th birthday, about a month before we went into the hospital, my mom was asked when she was sick and everybody knew she was sick to get up from the table and go sit somewhere else so that cousin Lenore and her husband could sit down at the table. So my mom got like shoved off. And my mom said to me the day after that, she was like, they're already counting me as dead. That's how fucked up these people are, right? So this cousin came to visit and my mom couldn't stand her because Satan would come in all the time and be like, oh, did Lenore did you talk to cousin Lenore? She's supposed to come tonight. Did she come to visit? And my mom would be like, why are these two talking? My mom used to get so pissed. So she came down one night. It was that Wednesday night after Cameragate. My mom was like so depressed that night. I mean, she was really, really feeling down. While Lenore is sitting there with her husband, like, telling these stupid stories, and I'm just sitting there like, oh God, could you go home, please? Bye. Could we trade you? Could you go down to Florida and I could take the other cousin? You're an idiot. I couldn't stand her. And I'm actually very close with the cousin who lives in Florida. If it weren't for her, I don't know if I would have made it through this whole situation. She was my lifeline. She was one of my lifelines. Anyway, as we're sitting there, my brother calls. My brother, who hasn't been in the hospital for 3 days now, calls my mom. So my mom's on the phone with him and she's telling him what's going on, what happened that day, telling my brother that she's starting to lose hope because she doesn't think that she's ever going to be able to walk or gain control over her bladder or her bowels again. She told my brother, I'm really depressed. And all of a sudden, like, I could see her and I could hear it in her voice. She's like, getting all choked up, and then she started crying. She literally said the words, "I'm depressed," which my mom never said. In the last 10 years that I knew she was depressed, she never admitted that she was actually depressed. Finally, this day, she admits it. She starts like bawling. And you know what my brother does? You know what this piece of shit does? Okay, I gotta go. Click. He hung up on her right after she was telling him that she's depressed and was crying. I can't make this shit up. I swear to God. And Lenore and, her husband are just sitting there like, do, la la la. And I'm like, these people are insane. I just can't take it. And so then the next day, Thursday comes. It's the 10th. There was talks about putting my mom into one of these rehab facilities. The social worker had mentioned to me one day that she was having trouble getting one of these places approved. They were trying to find a place that had dialysis on site that my mom could go to, and some place that was kind of local so that we didn't have to travel too far. And the one place that they really wanted to get my mom in wouldn't, for whatever reason, she wasn't covered. And I think it had to do with her insurance, because she still had private insurance at this point in time. That was a whole nother issue that I had to, we kind of had to talk my mom into quitting her job so that she could get Medicare. Because if you're on dialysis, you automatically qualify for Medicare. So that was like another talk I had to have with her, right? So Thursday was a crazy day. My mom was supposed to be doing physical therapy that day. I see the social worker sitting in her office, so I walk down and I go sit in her office, and we're just talking about this whole thing with the rehab facilities, and she's explaining to me how Medicare works and how Medicare, if you're on Medicare, you actually get more benefits. You're going to be eligible for more services like transportation and all this other stuff that you wouldn't be eligible for under, private health insurance. All of a sudden, the doctor saw me walking into the office. The attending physician who was on, for the last couple of days, he comes walking into the office and he sits down on the desk and he closes the door. And he's like, "Listen, I need to have a serious talk with you." So I'm like, "Okay, go ahead." And he sits down and he starts telling me all about, what's going on with my mom medically, which I already knew. And I will just never forget this day. This was the first time since my mom had been diagnosed with cancer that anybody said the word terminal to me. That hit me like a ton of bricks. It was just like, wow. And so the doctor told me, "Your mom's cancer has metastasized. It's in her lungs. It's in her stomach, it's in her bones, her spine, her kidneys failing, and your mom is terminally ill." I was just like, whoa. I knew that it was bad. And the last couple of weeks, it was like I was seeing something right in front of my face, but gauging on everything else and the way other people were talking and my brother and, just everything, my family not coming to the hospital as much as I thought they should. Like, I don't know if I was like in a little bit of denial. I mean, I knew what I was seeing. I knew. I recognized the signs from when my dad was sick. This doctor, as hard as it probably was for him to say this to me, I was so thankful. He was a straight shooter and just told me, "Listen, your mom is in stage 4 cancer and she's terminal." That was the first time I ever heard that word associated with my mom. Just here for a minute. Sometimes when I'm filming these things, I can't fully articulate myself. But, at that moment when the doctor told me that, it was kind of like words I needed to hear that nobody was saying. I knew what I was seeing. I knew what was going on. I recognized all the signs. They say that there's signs when people are dying. They disconnect, they become apathetic, and I was kind of doing this process of elimination, like, what's going on? Is it the medication, or is she dying? Is it this, or is she dying? Is it depression, or is she dying? And he kind of just solidified what I kind of knew and thought was going on. That moment was just horrible. It was terrible. It was the worst. It was like the worst thing to actually hear those words being said in reference to her. And he's like, "I'm going to be really honest with you. I think we've come to a crossroads where it might be time to think about going on hospice. And I was like, whoa. Like, I felt like I was going to pass out in the room right there. And he's like, that would mean your mom would have to, just stop all treatment, stop cancer treatment, stop dialysis, and just go home and die. And I was like, wow. Holy shit. I felt like an anvil dropped down on my head. But at the same time, it almost felt like a ton of bricks were lifted off my shoulder because I knew what I was seeing this whole time, but like nobody was telling me. I thanked this doctor. I said, thank you. Thank you for just being honest with me because I feel like I've been so lost trying to figure out what is going on. And I know what I'm seeing, but I can't. Nobody's telling me really what's going on. And now I know I'm not going crazy. So we continued our discussion between me, him, and the social worker in the room. We all agreed that my mom was just in complete denial about what was going on, that she was completely terrified of dying, terrified. And we all, collectively agreed that at that point in time, it was probably best not to tell her. He's like, we'll see what's going on. He's like, but, that's where things are heading. And it's inevitable. I had to now walk out of my mom's room and go into her room and act like I didn't know any of this. And that was probably one of the hardest things I had to do. I know this horrible information now. I know that my mom is dying. And I'm like, wow. From that moment, I made a very, very conscious decision that all the bullshit was done. I am not talking about my brother anymore. I am not bringing his name up. Like, this is it. My mom is terminally ill. Those words changed everything for me. This is serious. And I called my husband up and I said, Chris, I am spending every second of my time with her from this point out.